November 1st, 1755. In less than an hour, one of the most powerful cities in the world will be completely destroyed. Not by one disaster, but three. The ground will tear itself apart. The ocean will vanish and then come back as a wall. And what's left will burn for days. Nearly 100,000 people will be dead. And it will all begin on a quiet morning. Churches filled with thousands of people who have no idea they are about to be buried alive. Lisbon, Portugal, All Saints' Day. The city wakes up peaceful, unaware. Then, without warning, the ground moves. Not violently at first, just enough to be noticed. A subtle vibration beneath the feet, a ripple through stone. People pause, look around, confused. Then the shaking intensifies. Fast, buildings begin to groan. Walls crack open like splitting wood. The ground doesn't just shake, it rolls, violently. The earthquake has begun. Beneath the Atlantic Ocean, far offshore, immense tectonic forces have been building for centuries. Along the Azores-Gibraltar fault zone, the African and Eurasian plates are locked together under enormous pressure. On this morning, that pressure finally releases. The rupture tears across the seafloor for hundreds of kilometers. In seconds, the Earth shifts. Entire sections of the ocean floor are thrust upward while others drop suddenly. The displacement is massive, measured in meters, and it happens almost instantly. This sudden, vertical movement is what makes this earthquake so destructive. It doesn't just shake the land, it displaces the ocean itself. In Lisbon, the force is immense, now estimated between magnitude 8.5 and 9.0, one of the most powerful earthquakes Europe has ever experienced. The shaking doesn't stop. It continues for minutes, long enough for entire districts to collapse. Church ceilings crash down onto thousands of worshippers. Towers snap. Stone buildings crumble into clouds of dust. Streets disappear beneath falling debris. People run, but there is nowhere to run to. The city itself is collapsing. The ground tears open. Deep fissures split through Lisbon. Some are wide enough to swallow people whole. Eyewitnesses describe the earth literally opening beneath them. Entire sections of the city vanish into cracks in the ground. Panic spreads instantly. Survivors flee in every direction. Many run downhill toward the waterfront, toward open space, toward what feels like safety. The great Praça do Comércio fills with people. Thousands gather along the river, believing they've escaped the worst of it. But something is wrong. The water is gone. The harbor begins to drain. Ships tilt sideways as the sea pulls back. The river retreats unnaturally fast, exposing the seabed. Cargo, debris, even shipwrecks suddenly visible. This is the first visible sign of what has already begun far out at sea. When the seafloor shifted, it pushed an enormous column of water upward. Gravity immediately pulls that water back down, sending energy outward in all directions. This energy travels across the ocean as a tsunami, fast, powerful, and nearly invisible in deep water. In the open ocean, the wave may only be a few feet high, but it moves at jet-like speeds, hundreds of miles per hour. As it approaches shallower coastal waters, everything changes. The ocean floor rises. The wave slows. And as it slows, its energy compresses, forcing the water upward. The wave grows taller, stronger, more destructive. In Lisbon, the retreating water is the warning sign. The trough of the tsunami has arrived first, pulling the sea away from the land before the crest returns. It's silent, eerily silent. For a moment, it feels like the disaster is over. It's not. Out in the Atlantic, the wave is racing toward the coast. Roughly 40 minutes after the earthquake, it reaches Lisbon. The ocean returns, but it doesn't come back as water. It comes back as a wall. The first wave surges into the Tagus River estuary with overwhelming force. It rises rapidly, towering above the shoreline, and crashes into the city. The people gathered at the waterfront have no time to react. The wave hits. Instantly, thousands are swept away. Ships are lifted and thrown inland like debris. Entire docks vanish. Buildings near the water are ripped apart. The force of the water is unstoppable, carrying everything with it. And then another wave comes. and another. Tsunamis rarely arrive as a single wave. They come in a series, spaced minutes apart, each one capable of causing destruction. The water surges in, then pulls back, dragging debris and survivors out to sea before the next wave crashes forward again. The tsunami spreads beyond Lisbon, racing along the western coast of Portugal. Towns are erased, entire communities are submerged. The water pushes inland, sometimes hundreds of meters, carrying wood, stone, and people with it. In the south, coastal regions are devastated. Across the ocean, the energy continues outward. Hours later, waves strike Morocco, destroying entire settlements. The same force travels across the Atlantic, reaching distant shores in the Caribbean. What began as a rupture beneath the ocean floor has become a disaster spanning continents. Back in Lisbon, the destruction isn't over, not even close. The city is still burning. The candles lit for All Saints' Day have ignited the wreckage. Fires spread rapidly through the debris. Broken buildings, exposed wood, and strong winds turn Lisbon into fuel. Small flames become an uncontrollable inferno. The fire moves faster than the survivors. Entire streets ignite at once. The heat becomes unbearable. For 5 days, Lisbon burns. Entire districts are consumed. Everything the earthquake didn't destroy, the fire finishes. By the end, the city is almost unrecognizable. Up to 100,000 people are dead. Most of Lisbon's buildings are gone. Palaces collapse into rubble. Libraries vanish, taking centuries of knowledge with them. Churches, once filled with life, are reduced to ash. The city that stood as one of Europe's greatest centers of wealth and power is now silent, broken, gone. For those who survive, the experience is impossible to process. The ground shook, the sea rose, the city burned. 3 disasters, back to back, each one more devastating than the last. Earth, water, fire, all in a single morning. Today, scientists understand what happened beneath the surface. A massive rupture along a plate boundary displaced the seafloor, transferring energy into the ocean above it. That energy traveled outward as a series of waves, growing in height as they approached land. But in 1755, there was no warning system, no understanding of tectonic plates, no concept of how tsunamis formed, only the sudden realization that the ocean itself could turn against the land. The Lisbon earthquake would go on to change more than just the city. It would change how people understood disasters themselves. For the first time, events like this began to be studied scientifically, observed, recorded, analyzed. It also shook something deeper: belief. Philosophers across Europe struggled to explain how such devastation could occur on a holy day, in a deeply religious city. Thinkers like Voltaire and Immanuel Kant began questioning ideas that had gone unchallenged for centuries. The disaster didn't just destroy Lisbon, it reshaped the way people saw the world. In the aftermath, Portugal's Prime Minister took control. His response was immediate, practical, direct. The dead were buried, the living were fed, and Lisbon began to rebuild. But it would not be rebuilt the same way. The new city was designed differently, stronger. Buildings were constructed with internal wooden frameworks designed to absorb shock, an early form of earthquake-resistant engineering. Some structures were even tested by marching troops around them to simulate vibrations. Lisbon rose again, not as it was, but as something new, more resilient, more prepared. The 1755 Lisbon earthquake remains one of the most devastating disasters in European history, not just because of its scale, but because of what followed. A chain reaction of destruction: earthquake, tsunami, fire, each one amplifying the last, all within a matter of hours. Today, Lisbon stands once again, alive, rebuilt, but beneath its streets lies the memory of that morning, the moment everything changed, when the ground began to move, when the ocean disappeared, and when it came back, it took the city with it.